As we've seen in the course so far, language is a key component of social interaction. We need to communicate with others in order to develop and sustain relationships. With our kids with DLD, not only may they struggle with vocabulary, grammar, and some other obvious aspects of language, they also often struggle with social use of language. This means they may not understand turn-taking in a conversation, how to know when it's time to switch to the next topic, or how to interpret things like sarcasm, where the person says one thing but means another. We are going to talk more about various aspects of social language later on in this module. However, when we consider those challenges as a whole, it quickly makes sense that our kids with DLD sometimes prefer adult interaction to communicating with their peers, or sometimes they just withdraw completely and prefer not to communicate at all. You probably noticed when your child was very young that he or she didn't speak as much as other kids. Maybe your child struggled to communicate their needs to you and they engaged in a lot of vocalizing like and pulling you with their hand to the place they wanted you to be so that you could get them what they wanted. I think we should take a quick moment just to celebrate your child's improvement since that time. It is great to look back on how far they have come. Then as time went on, you may have noticed that, wow, when I take my kid on a play date or when we go to a play group, my child doesn't really seem to know how to play with others, or they can't quite communicate their wishes or their feelings as well as some other kids. Perhaps your child had challenges putting words together to produce clear sentences, so the other kids just didn't have the patience to hang around and wait to try to figure out what your child was trying to communicate. And they didn't want to be pulled over to something that your child was interested in. This may in turn have caused your child to prefer to ask an adult for help rather than a playmate, because the adult may be more tolerant and understanding of the child's communication challenges. Or perhaps the child would decide not to ask anything or anyone at all and just play alone. Maybe your child wanted a toy that another kid had, and instead of knowing how to go to the other child and confidently ask for a turn, they preferred to ask an adult to help them or not ask at all, either snatching it or giving up completely and just doing something else. This may have reinforced the possibly subconscious belief that it's better to ask an adult than a peer for help, or maybe better not to ask at all. For this reason, your child may have ended up just giving up trying to communicate with their peers because they felt helpless or hopeless. And every time they went to an adult for help rather than speaking to a peer, or every time they decided to just give up and not communicate at all, it reinforced that behavior. Now, I'm talking about all of this because if this was your child's past experiences, we have to factor in how that impacts their present situation. At recess or on play dates, your child may feel angry, frustrated, or discouraged because the other kids still don't fully understand them. Or by the time they're ready and they have thought of the words they need and have organized their thoughts into sentences, everybody's moved on and it's too late to share their great idea for the game or Lego creation. So, our kids with DLD are more likely than their peers to have tantrums, and physical aggression might come out. They may develop a poor reputation with adults at school or with their peers because it's so much harder for them to express their wishes or ideas using words, or because they miss important social cues like integrating a person's facial expression and tone of voice with the words they are saying, or knowing how to respond and make connected comments to what a peer is saying. When they're in a disagreement, whether it's for a group project and they don't agree with the direction it's going, or maybe they're playing baseball and they don't agree that that was a foul ball, they may act out rather than communicating calmly with words to express their perspective. We can see how this could lead to exasperation and undesirable behavior, right? The child may throw down their baseball glove and storm off the field, or be super passive and not communicate at all during group work because they don't quite have the ability to clearly get their thoughts out quickly, or they've just given up trying. As you are learning more about executive function skills, you can also imagine how challenges with inhibition, planning, prioritizing, flexibility, emotional control, and so on, all of those can also be at play. Now, let's say you have a very imaginative child who loves pretending and has many great ideas, and they have another friend over to play. They're pretending together, they have some elaborate play going on, but your child may not quite get some of the nuances of what the other child is saying due to complex grammar or maybe complex vocabulary. So, for example, if their peer uses the word until and your child has misunderstood it, that could cause big problems. Imagine the friend said, "Keep pouring water in our trench until the flag drops down." But your child continues to pour water even after the flag had dropped. The friend might get upset, the flag might get ruined. This is just one example of where words that are more complex than your child is used to could cause confusion and result in an unintended conflict between friends. Their peers may use vocabulary words that your child with DLD is not familiar with, and they may seem like they're being disagreeable when in fact they haven't quite understood the other friend's idea. It may be quite challenging for the child to then engage in conflict resolution with their peers because of language and executive function deficits. Adults are often more patient or supportive when speaking with a child with DLD and challenges with executive function skills. They're more patient than kids often are, so the kids with DLD may prefer to come to us adults when they need something. We want to help change that and equip our kids with the skills they need to communicate more effectively with their peers. We'll talk about how to address this in the next sub-lesson.